Good evening. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another session of DogSpot Live. Today evening, we have a great guest with us with something different from pets.
Mhm.
We've moved on to wildlife today. We have Indrajit Latey here with us, who's a naturalist and also an animal communicator. Hi, Indrajit.
Hi.
Hi, good to have you. And so I'm going to start by saying, I gave a very brief introduction of yours, but I know you do a lot more things than that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Mussarat. First of all, thank you for inviting me on the talk. I know it's a very interesting topic for everyone, even for a person who is a layman, especially when you say wildlifer or anything to do with wildlife, because everyone knows a little bit about it. But
Yeah.
coming to myself, I had a very interesting childhood. My parents influenced me a lot. My father was a zoologist, and my mother
Oh,
comes from a very small town near Amravati. And over there, where there's a beautiful tiger reserve called Melghat. So
okay.
when we were kids, our grandfather and we used to go into that area and explore a lot. And since then, I knew that I was not definitely cut out for an office job. So that influenced me a lot. And as I grew
Uh-huh.
up, animals were always there, and we always went to different parts where we could see some kind of wildlife or the other.
Hmm.
And so after I finished my 10th, I started working at at the local WWF office over here.
Oh,
And I
okay.
volunteered with them just to understand what it was. And that's where the whole process for me getting exposed to the right kind of people at the right time in my life, I think, happened. And then
Right.
I worked at a very small nature camp called Nature Trails, which effectively did environment education for children between the group of 8 to 12. And
Okay.
so that was a very interesting thing. So I thought I'll pursue it further. And we eventually went and I went and did a small workshop at the Center for Environment Education, CEE, which is in Ahmedabad. And I got
Okay.
a certification from them for nature and animal communication and education. And then I ran a small organization called Pugmarks in Pune in 2000 with a couple of colleagues of mine. I worked with
Okay.
them for about 4 years. It basically dealt with getting people addicted to the outdoors, getting them to, get more involved and understand wildlife better as
Hmm.
compared to other things. So that was pretty interesting. And that exposed me to all the different parts of the country. I mean, we used to take
Right.
people diving in the Andamans and Lakshadweep Islands. We used to go high altitude trekking in Manali and beyond. We went to the
Yeah.
eastern part of the country, exploring the tribals over there. We did definitely do a lot of wildlife safaris in central India and Maharashtra also. So that gave
Right.
me a huge exposure to what our country has to offer, and it is just amazing. So, but with travel comes a lot of logistics and a lot of admin and back
Yes.
end work, which
Yes.
I did not enjoy. So in 2006, I left from there and I went to Kanha National Park, and I worked there as
Okay.
a naturalist. I worked there as a head naturalist with a lodge. So my job at that time was every day take tourists into the park, explain
Hmm.
to them what wildlife you're seeing, explain to them different sounds which you hear, what are they, why that particular
Yeah.
animal is making that particular sound. So it was like being a detective. So every day when we entered the park, we used to see the
Yeah.
road and we used to see different telltale signs on the road. Sometimes we saw just one thin drag line going, and then we used to
Yeah.
know, oh, at night a porcupine walked from there. Or we saw
Oh.
sometimes pug marks, and then we used to look at the pug marks and we used to see, oh, this is a female tiger or this is a male tiger. And then we used to help the guests understand how are we deciphering it, because we've also learned it from the local guides which are there.
Right.
And then that's
Right.
how we try to make it interesting and get people involved with it, rather than just going there and saying, oh, there's a tiger, oh, there's a tigress, or there's a deer. If you get them involved in it more, they be a part of it, and then they take
Yeah.
back that kind of an experience more. So I worked with them a lot. And then there were
Right.
certain organizations which came, or certain companies which came, and they really liked the way I was explaining, or the process with which I was telling the guests things on safari. And they said, why don't you lead some tours for us? And that's where I quit from there, and I started doing leading tours all over the country. Now it's been close to about 28 years since I've been working, but
Wow.
leading tours in the last about 12 years very, very regularly. So and I've done tours for companies which are Delhi based. One of them, which you already know, which is owned by Amit Sankla, Encounters
Yeah.
Asia. And
Yeah.
through that we do a lot of snow leopard trips. We do red panda trips in the eastern part of the country. Of course, we do a lot of central India. Now we're focusing a lot on traditional festivals in the country, which is one of them is the Hornbill Festival. Then of
Yeah.
course you've got the Pushkar and things like that. So this kind
Yeah.
of exposure is always an interesting thing, because it gives you a big learning curve which you can keep following and keep pursuing.
Yeah.
So I just love what I do. It's an amazing experience. I have been to all the states in India, but saying that, I have not been to all the different national parks in the country. There are close to 100 plus national parks, and I must have
Wow.
covered maybe half of them. And still a lot of them are remaining. And I'm not even going into the wildlife sanctuaries and other parts which are non-reserve forests. But it's very interesting. You get to meet such a variety of local people who are so simple, who are so nice, so down to earth. They've got very, very basic needs, and they are so
Mhm.
self-satisfied. They are just they are like living in the moment, which we try and say, be in the moment, be in the moment, but they're always there. So it's an amazing experience just to interact with them. I
Right.
mean, so yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Lots I try and do a lot of things, but my core passion is wildlife, and because of that, I also got into photography, because a lot of
Wow.
time the
Yes.
guests which were there, we like to give them back something in terms of memories. So we try
Yeah.
and take their pictures when they're on a safari, or
Right.
when we organize a nice quiet dinner for them, like a bush dinner for a anniversary or something like that, or birthday, birthday surprise. And so that got me into photography, and from there, because of photography came, we started documenting a lot of things as we saw them. And then in the end, in every evening, we used to share our pictures with our guests, and we used to
Okay.
explain to them that this is this particular tiger because of particular markings which it has. This is this particular antelope, this is this particular reptile or insect, and things like that. So it was more of
Yeah.
an informative thing, because of which I got into photography. And now of course I lead a lot of photo trips also. So
So,
that's what.
guys, if you hang out with us, we're going to showcase some of Indrajit's favorite photographs from his years spent in the jungles.
Yeah.
And he's going to tell us the stories behind all these photographs. So, I'm really looking forward to it. So, hang on for that. So, Indrajit, like you said, we know somebody in common, Amit.
Yeah.
And my luck is such, I've been on a lot of safaris, but I've never seen a tiger. Although I have no regrets because I enjoy my experience a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
But he
Yeah.
refuses to sit in a jeep with me anymore. So,
True,
because,
true, true.
yeah, because he said, with you, I'm never going to see anything. My husband
Yeah.
has gone on a safari now without me because he said, I'm not sitting in a jeep with you. But,
Yeah.
this is the thing that all of us go to the jungle for saying, like, let's say, okay, we want to see a tiger. But
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have a very good naturalist every time I've been on a safari. And they told us, like, I learned a lot about new birds. About I saw leopards, which is even more rare.
Yeah, that's
I
amazing.
saw
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw the wild dogs. I saw a lot, and I've never had any regret that, oh, I didn't see a tiger or whatever, because
Sure, sure,
I
sure,
personally don't believe in going to zoos and seeing an animal in captivity. I would
sure,
rather not
sure.
see it at all. So that's me. But so, what do you want to? What do you say is the best way to experience a safari, or best way to best mindset to go into the jungle with?
So, Musrat, funnily enough, you are an educated tourist, as I would call it, or an educated
Okay.
wildlife tourist. Like what you rightly mentioned, most people, when they go into a park, their main aim is to see a tiger. And there's nothing wrong in that, because
Right.
we are promoting tiger as an iconic species. In India, just like in Africa,
Yes.
you've got the 5 iconic species. India also has its 5 iconic species, which is the elephant, largest mammal. Then you've got the rhinoceros, you've got the
Yes.
buffalo, which is in the part of the country.
Yes.
You've got the tiger and you've got the leopard. So we've got our five
Yeah, the
big,
big five.
the big five,
Yeah,
which is
the
there
big
in
five
India.
of Africa. Yes. Yes.
Exactly. So we've got the big five of India also the same way. But now
Okay.
let's say you're going to some national park in the central Indian range, which is typically
Yes.
Kanha or Bandhavgarh or Pench or something like that. It's called a Pench Tiger Reserve or a Kanha Tiger Reserve for a reason that there are tigers found over there. So now when
Yes.
you go over there, you expect to see that. So there's nothing wrong in having an expectation of seeing a tiger. But I always say that yes, you will see a tiger. But if you see a tiger on your first safari, does it mean every safari you will see a tiger? Definitely not. You could be
Yes.
lucky and you could see a tiger. But the tiger is literally, I mean, as cliched as it may sound, it's like the cherry on the cake. You
Yeah.
can't go to that cherry unless you go through the cake first. And that is the most important role in one of the people who assisted you, which is called a naturalist.
Yes.
Now, it's the job of the naturalist to make the safari interesting. And once that safari becomes interesting, then be it you see a tiger at the end of the safari or not, you still will have an experience which you can take back home with a learning.
Right.
I mean, you can always go to any park and just have a good time and come back. But at the end of the day, if you have got someone who comes and gives you more knowledge, more information, makes that time which you're spending worthwhile, it is, it's the best of both the worlds. And
Right.
that's where naturalists come into the picture. So typical job of a naturalist is to interpret things for you. I'm not saying he will know or even I will know everything. There are so many different things which are there which could be possible that I have seen for the first time, or I might
Yeah.
not even know a particular bird because it might be a new bird in that area. But to help you identify together and make it like an interesting experience is what a naturalist does. So to have
Absolutely.
a good safari, I would definitely say that you need to first go to the right place, which has got some good quality naturalists. And trust me, there are some top naturalists which are there. I mean, I will not be able to say that how good they are because there's no scale or gradation as such. Like in Africa, where you've got gold standards. So there's a gold standard, a silver standard, and a bronze standard, and you have to give exams and things like that. Unfortunately, in India, that is not yet happening, but it will happen very soon, and we will come up with something. In fact, one of the things which we were talking about with Amit and some of our other friends is let's start a guide training school. So for people
Wow.
who are
Okay.
keen on making naturalists as a career, and they
Yeah.
might not be let's say a science graduate or someone who has a background of science, they
Yeah.
still can come and explore it, because this is a job which is more to do with passion rather than
Yeah.
a typical job. So anyone, I mean, I know so many naturalists all around the country, they're only there because of passion. They're not there for the money. I mean, money is a very slow thing which is in this job. And I'm telling you, and people who are listening, that if you want to make money, this is a wrong profession. I mean, but if you want to really follow what you truly love, and in the
Yeah.
morning you wake up and you want to say, oh, what a beautiful day, rather than, oh, no, it's another day, this is one
Yeah.
of the jobs which you would love to do. So to have a very nice safari, I think naturalist is it's going to make or break your safari, just like a tour leader who comes and helps you organize stuff and things like that. So it's a hassle-free, headache-free safari which you have. All your things are taken care of, and at the end of the safari, probably you'll have a better chance of seeing tigers, which is again what you've come for.
Yeah. Ruhi is calling me to Nagpur. We'll visit the sanctuaries around. You'll see a tiger for sure. That's where I flew into, Ruhi. And I.
So Ruhi is, if she's from Nagpur, she's sitting in something which is called the tiger capital of India, because
Yeah.
around Nagpur there are so many national
So
parks. You've got
many.
Paints
Yes.
accessible,
Yeah.
Tadoba, I mean, within Maharashtra itself, Nagzira is there,
Yes.
Navegaon is there, Tadoba is there, Tipeshwar is there. And then if you see north, you've got Pench, Kanha, Bandhavgarh, so a lot of national parks. So it's called the
Yeah. I know.
unofficial tiger capital. So yeah, I
Yeah.
understand where
And
she's
that's
coming in
where.
from.
Yeah, that's where the flight lands, right? So where for most
Yeah,
of these parks, if you want to go into them, and then the cab picks you up.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if trust me, if one of the top wildlife people has given up on me, there's I have to give up on myself too.
I don't.
So I wanted to ask you, Indrajit, if you want to if you want to talk a little bit about how a typical day in a wildlife park is for a tourist.
Sure.
So people
Yeah,
who've
yeah,
never been on a safari or who've
yeah,
never
yeah,
been to
yeah.
So, what does a day look like? What should they expect out of their trip to a wildlife park?
So a typical wildlife day is an early morning start. A
Right.
typical day. And when I mean early, if you're there in the on a cold winter morning, or maybe it's January or February, you'd wake up somewhere about 4:30 in the morning, and brush, flush, and get into your jeep and get into your gear. And by the time you're at the gate, it's 5 o'clock. And the gate usually opens between 5:30, quarter to 6, depending on what the sunrise is. So all the
Right.
parks in the country are controlled by sunrise and sunset timings. So they don't have a fixed hour as such. And then once the
Okay.
park gate opens, a local
Hmm.
guide who is from that particular area will come and get into your vehicle, and he will come and escort you for a safari.
Right.
The safari vehicles are very, very comfortable. They're something which is like a Maruti Gypsy, and they're all open. We've so far never had an incident where any animal has jumped into that thing, so people don't have to worry at all. We don't take guns or any other weapons or anything inside for safety. It's just that animals are so used to these jeeps that they move away rather than
Yes.
they try and come towards the jeep. So
Yeah.
you go early morning for a safari, and then you'll have a nice breakfast inside the park itself, a picnic breakfast. There are certain designated spots in national parks where you can have breakfast. And also there are some basic restroom facilities, really, really basic, because there is no way where you can have a water supply or waste management disposal system, things like that. So there's quite basic, restroom breaks. And then you'll come out maybe just about a little bit before noon. You'll have when you come back to your lodge, your naturalist will talk to you about what's happened. You'll exchange information with the other guests onto what
Yeah.
they've seen, where they've seen, and things like that. And in the evening, if you're going for another safari, you're going for a safari, or sometimes you have an option of going for a nature walk, where you can actually go around the park's buffer zone and see the little insects or little animals or little creepy crawlies, which you've missed out because sitting in a jeep you can only see only a certain amount of things, and also
Right.
you're moving. But when you're doing a walking safari, it's an unbelievable experience, because you really can see what the whole strata of the ground dwelling animals are. And that's
Yeah.
where you'll actually learn more about insects and that fascinating world, which is all there to be explored. So if you're looking at, I mean, only tigers, I would say unless and until you don't do a walking safari, you're not going to see a tiger. So I don't know if you've done a walking
I
safari
have
or
done
not.
it. I have done it because also I've become an avid birder now.
There,
I can
yes,
add,
yes,
yes. So
yeah,
I enjoy looking at the birds and identifying them as well. So I enjoy all aspects of it. I mean, it's just a joke for me that I've not seen
yeah,
tigers, but
yeah.
again, I have no regrets. I'm happy
No,
with
yeah.
my experiences in the
Yeah,
park.
like I said, you're an educated wildlifer. I mean, so just because you've not seen a tiger is not going to tell you, okay, I don't want to go into the park, or things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with that. But so safaris are, that's how it happens. There are some national parks in the country which are doing a lot of unique, new, revolutionary things. There is a park called Satpura in central India, which was the
Okay.
first national park which started doing something which is called night safaris or night patrols.
Oh.
And
Okay.
we can be involved in the night patrol. So what happens is at sunset, when the parks close, the forest
Yeah.
department's patrol vehicles are moving around. Now they've involved the local tourists also, that what, you can come with us and see how we are patrolling. So we can
Hmm.
get into those jeeps and we patrol certain areas, and it becomes like a night safari. It's not a night safari
Yeah.
actually, but that experience is there. So there suddenly a different world opens.
Right. Guys, I think we're having a little technical difficulty with Indrajit's connection, but just hang in there. We'll get it sorted in a minute. Okay. Shekhar Kashika, yes, I'll address it. Let Indrajit come back online. I think there's a little problem with his connection. We're going to find out how we can contact him and what is the process for exploring Kanha with him. And So while we're waiting for Indrajit, guys, really, wildlife tourism is a great option for your next holiday. And his wife is telling us that massive rain showers in our area, and thus his connection has dropped. He's fixing it ASAP. Yeah, just hang in there, guys. I mean, he's in Pune, and as you all know, monsoon is in full swing there, unlike for us in Delhi, where it's dry as anything. And I just keep looking at everyone's Instagram pictures of rain, and nothing here. But as I was saying, wildlife tourism is a great option for a good holiday within India if you want to have. It's a unique opportunity to learn about different ecosystems that we have within India. We have Kaziranga in the east, the lot of tiger parks in central India, and then of course the Andamans are there, and towards the south as well. South I have not explored as much. Most of my safaris have been in the Madhya Pradesh region, and Tiger has not graced me with its presence yet, but I will not give up. I will go back to these parks to continue my effort to see the mighty cat. And yeah, I mean, let's see, I think he's coming back. Welcome back.
Sorry. We've had so much of
No,
rain and the electricity is just gone off. So we had a lag in the
yeah,
thing. Sorry about that.
no problem. So we have a
So
question
I
from
don't know
Shekhar, which I
where we
promised
were
him you'll
till.
answer. Nothing. I was just blabbering about how everyone should go on
Oh,
a safari. But but Shekhar wants
yeah.
to know if he
Yes,
wants to
Shekhar, we
explore.
can.
Yeah, what is the process?
Kanha, Shekhar is a very close friend of mine. The process is
Ah,
simple. You pick up the phone and you just give me a call saying that you want to go to Kanha, and I'll join you definitely. So
no, but
definitely,
what about
Shekhar, we should
everyone
do one
else?
trip to Kanha.
No, but what about our other
Well,
viewers if they want to go on a safari with you
I
then?
think one of the easiest ways of going on safaris is planning. You need to
Right.
plan in advance, and I'm not saying this specifically with me. I'm just saying generally also, because what happens is safari tickets, there is only a limited number of people which a jungle takes in. So they've
Oh,
curbed the number of vehicles. It's not like a lot
oh,
of vehicles can go in. So you need to at
okay.
least plan 3 to 4 months before you
Oh,
want to
wow.
actually go on
Okay.
a safari. Yeah. So yes, let's fix up a date, let's fix up a place, and we can definitely go on a safari. We can help DogSpot organize a special tour where we can get them to have their people also come on a safari, and I promise you I'll come with you all. No
We'll
problems about that.
also, in all your years, all the tigers who are your friends, can you inform them that they should appear in front of me at least once? I would like to see Collar Wali. That's for sure.
Yes, I definitely. She's Paint's most famous and currently the oldest tigress in India, I think.
Yes,
She
yes.
probably has had close to about 29 to 30 cubs over a
I
period
know
of,
everything
say,
about
close to
her, but I've
14
never
years
seen
or
her.
12 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, you've just visited Paint once, if I'm not mistaken.
No, 3 times.
Oh, you have visited three. Okay.
Yes,
Well, so
yes.
maybe the fourth time you'll be fourth time lucky, not third time lucky. So it should be fine. Yeah. So coming back to how to go on a safari, yes, definitely we can organize going on safaris, and I mean that's what we specialize in, where we people tell us way in advance that they want to go on a safari to such and such a place, and that's what we do. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah, we can definitely go. I can see Kashika saying that we are going in November. Yes. So, incidentally, when Manjari was on your talk last time, she has
Yeah.
got something which is an advanced animal communicators group, which is there. And we are doing a special program for them. We were supposed to be there in June, but unfortunately, because of this pandemic, we had to delay it and go on and go in November. So, our trip is planned in November. And that's why we are going to do a very unique program for our animal communicators who have been
Wow. Okay.
practicing their communication, speaking to pets and other animals. And I'm
Wow.
certain they'll have a very, very, very different kind of an experience there. So that's what it is. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's an amazing experience.
Irmila is saying best person to learn wildlife from Indrajit Latey and love to Manjari Latey. So And Alok,
Nice. Yeah. Thank
hi
you very much,
Alok,
Irmala.
how are
I
you?
know.
He's saying, how many vehicles allowed in Kanha these days? It's long since I visited.
So, Alok, right now, there's something which is called a carrying capacity of a national park, and not all the national parks, whatever their size is open for tourism. Only 20% of the parks are open for tourism, and the reason for that, the forest department is saying that 80% we let whatever is without being disturbed just be as it is. So animals have got a lot of space. In case they feel that there is a little bit of disturbance because of tourist vehicles going up and down, or whatever. So 80% is closed, 20% is open. Now, to come to your question about how many vehicles are allowed in Kanha National Park, in the whole park, there are close to about 60 plus vehicles allowed. In the whole park, there are close to about 60 plus vehicles allowed, about 60 in the evening from one gate. So you can have sometimes 25 here and 35 there, or some permutation combination that way. But now, because the limitation on the number of jeeps which is there in the parks, it makes it even more a pleasurable experience. And the reason that pleasurable experience is, there is because there is no overcrowding.
Right,
In terms, if you Ranthambore, Ranthambore, you will see a lot of because the place is small. So you'll keep seeing, and there are certain routes put up at some national parks because they want to control the flow of tourists. So you will feel like you're in a train going behind the other. And sometimes cars are in one, or let's say a water hose, there has been a tiger sanctuary. So you do have those kind of things. But I think Alok Dash, he needs to visit again to just see. Last time he had visited to how they've done, he'll find a pleasant change in that also.
yeah. Uh, okay,
Am I
so
still?
sorry, go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No, no. Can you hear me? I thought I just lost into the park. Until now, there has been some.
Okay, I think he got disconnected again. Okay, you back.
I'm back. Thank God. I was
Yes.
wondering what happened to the network. Yeah. So I was saying there is a lot of interesting options which are there in terms of national parks. I mean, Kanha, Ranthambore, Bandhavgarh, these are the more famous ones. But
Right.
there are much smaller parks which are there, which are also very, very beautiful and very pretty.
Hmm. So, how do you say one goes about educating themselves about wildlife? And how to, I mean, right now there's so much urbanization, people don't even think, and wildlife is a
Yeah.
crucial part of our environment.
Sure, sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So one of the most important things when you go on a wildlife safari is to educate yourself. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, I'll give you an example, and I know it might not sound right, but it is the truth, and we've been seeing that over a period of time. Whenever you get any foreigner coming in into India, they
Right.
actually study where they're going. They
Hmm.
understand what kind of wildlife is there. They understand what kind of birds are seen in that area. They understand what local cultures are, what the local tribal communities are like.
Okay.
If we are going to, let's say, a national park, unfortunately we don't study this. Our main focus only is the tiger, and what is the kind of availability or possibility of having a sighting of that tiger when
Yeah.
we are there.
Yeah.
Now, that is where a safari experience comes down. As soon as you go with the attitude of having a experience where there are so many other things to see the safari with, well, like
Right.
meeting different kind of local communities, understanding local cultures, having local food cuisines over there which are there, and of course then understanding the birds, mammals, insects, reptiles, and things like that. That definitely will help you have a better, more holistic approach to a wildlife experience. And that is what I mean by education. To add to
Right.
that, of course, your local naturalist will definitely give you more help in terms of educating you more, giving you what ground realities are, because sometimes you might not know, you might read some story in the newspaper which the media has
Yeah.
presented, and it's quite hyped up because it's sensationalized, because what is
Yeah.
sensationalized only will sell.
Yeah.
Something which is a simple thing will not. So if that's the case, then of course it is a very different ball game, where
Hmm.
once you go over there, you'll find out what the truth is, and you'll understand from a perspective of the local community what is happening over there. I know
Okay.
it's a controversial subject, but I will get into it. And all of you know about this case where some years, last year, there was the case of this tigress from Tipeshwar called Avni. And I mean, she was killed eventually
Yeah.
by so-called whoever it was, and because she had become a man-eater, and or they said that she has become a man-eater, and she's got these two tiny cubs who were there, and so things like that. But that controversy just blew up in a very, very wrong way. Whatever was being presented was not all true. It was, again, like I said, sensationalized. A lot of people took advantage of those kind of facts and showed Indian wildlife in a very negative way. Even this case where very recently we had this unfortunate incident where the elephant who tried to eat something, and the thing exploded in her mouth, which was another very, very sad thing. But ground realities were quite different to what the media projected. So these are the kind of ground realities you will find out once you go to the place and speak to the local communities over there, the local staff over there, the local guides over there. They will tell you what the whole true picture is, and then you come back more as an educated tourist. Then you can have an opinion about a particular matter which is happening, which is there. Like, I mean, it's very easy to say that the government is not doing anything, or there's not so much of money being pumped into national parks for whatever reasons. But everyone has got their own limitations. There is a certain amount of machinery which is required. So all these things you'll understand, and this is when I mean that you should be an educated tourist.
Yeah.
So it's not just about wildlife, but it's also about ground realities.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my mom-in-law. Hi, mom. She's saying very, very sad about Avni, heartbroken. She's
I
also
know,
a
I know.
very avid wildlifer. She's been on a lot of
Right.
safari. She's a great spotter. So is my
Oh, very
husband.
nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
She's
Excellent.
both of them
Yeah,
are
yeah,
very good spotters, unlike me. So I'm
yeah,
usually just
yeah.
catching up with them. Daria
So,
wants to know.
about
Sorry, go ahead.
Darya, which is the no. So about this spotting, just to
Yeah.
before I come to Darya's question about spotting, how do you get a person to spot so easily? So the thing is, on an early morning safari, you can become a good spotter if you're awake. And spotting is the most easy way of taking part in the safari. And I have had so many umpteen number of incidents where
Yeah.
we're driving along and suddenly the guest says, stop, 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 tiger, tiger, tiger. And we stop over there and we take the car behind, and it's usually the shape of a rock or a log which is fallen down, or the light which is playing such unusual effects, which is there is shadow and there's sunlight, and shadow and sunlight and things like that.
Yeah.
So yes, spotting is one of the most important things which is there. And it's interesting you say that she's a very good spotter, because the local guides who come with us, they have got unbelievable, amazing eyesights. I
Yeah.
mean, they can spot these owls sitting in some hollow of a
Yeah.
tree. They
Yes.
can hear an alarm call which we've not even heard of, and I still get amazed. I mean, I've been going to forests for so many years,
Yeah.
but still, when the guide says, sir, wahan se alarm call aa raha hai. Alarm call means a distress call given
Yes.
by a prey when it hears or sees a predator. So when the alarm call is coming, he says, sir, alarm call aa raha hai. And I'm like, okay, 1 minute ruko. And I'm waiting, and then I hear it. So my guide has already heard it before.
Yeah.
So they are, and that is the reason why all these guides who are the forest department has employed are coming with us. They are our basic spotters. They might not
Yeah.
speak very good English. They might not be, well mannered as such or so, but they are very good spotters. One. Second is they are having, that's a way employment is being generated through the forest department by giving these
Yeah.
people livelihoods. So they in turn can make sure that, what our animals are safe,
Yeah.
our wildlife is safe, things like that. So when you say she's a good spotter, yes, I agree with that. So probably next time you can keep your eyes open. It's quite easy spotting.
No, my eyes are open, but I'm terrible. And
Yeah,
so at least, she's saying she learned it from her dad, and then my husband's learned it from her. So I'm just in like,
yeah,
I'm in good company, and I just follow wherever
sure,
they're saying, look, look. So I'm like,
sure.
okay, I'm looking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so which
So I can
is
see
the nearest
Darya's
wildlife?
that
Yes.
yeah, Darya question. Darya, yes, the closest wildlife sanctuary to Pune, and I was there literally 3 days ago. There's a place called Mayureshwar Wildlife Sanctuary. It is literally about 52 kilometers from Pune, and I can definitely share more details with you. And if you are willing, I can come along with you also, or you can take me along with you also. So it's a very interesting place. We were there. We had gone to see certain antelopes called chinkaras, or the Indian
Ah, yeah.
gazelle, and
Yes.
they're found over there in plenty. And there are so many people who don't even know about these places. I mean, Pune, because I'm from Pune, there are so many things which we do over here. But each and every city in India has got something or the other around. I mean, if people find out, if people want to know, you can always look for wildlife. Again, what do you mean by wildlife? That is always a
Hmm.
tricky question. So
Right.
wildlife means anything which is not normal. I mean, you can go for a small nature trail on a local hill which is next to you, and you're seeing these beautiful jewel beetles. You're seeing these velvet bugs which are coming out right now because the monsoon started, or you can see these caterpillars which are there. You can see different kinds of birds taking building material for making nesting. All that. That is also wildlife. So
Yeah.
it's not always big game which is wildlife. Wildlife
Yeah.
is anything which is in the wild. So it's quite an interesting question which is there, but it's an amazing experience. So Darya, yes, you should visit Mayureshwar Sanctuary, which is close by.
I think you're going to end up organizing a tour because we have Pranay who's saying count me in with Darya. So
Yeah,
I'm
so
going to
Pranay is
put.
the one who was on Manjari's session, who said we should have Indrajit also on the talk over there.
Ah,
It was him. But Pranay, yes, I know we will. Pranay, incidentally, also is coming on the trip to Kanha with us in November.
oh,
So
wow, okay.
yeah. So they're also that couple and the whole family. In fact, they're amazing animal communicators. Very very special people there. So yeah. So yeah. So that's what I mean when I said education, where you need to make sure that. You need to go there with some intention of getting added information to what you already have. And
Right.
like I mentioned before, there is no one who says I know everything about this particular park, or I know everything about this particular kind of a genre of wildlife, or anything,
Yeah.
things like that.
So Kamaini, I think has a very good question. Hi, Kamaini, good to see you here. She's asking, does a newbie need to do some kind of homework before going for a safari?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Does a newbie need to do some homework? Yes, you need to do some homework. You need to know where you're going. You
Hmm.
need to have a list of, say, 10 questions of what you are not aware of about that place, or about the wildlife over there, about the local cultures over there, or just the place in general. I had
Right.
this guest from the UK. She must be about 78, 79 years old, and about 5 years back she had come to India for the first time. And she had written, okay, so what are the things which I need to carry on a safari and things like that, how hot it is going to be, what is the temperature like, what are the mosquito conditions like, and things like that. So we answered her all these questions. When she came to India, she was just talking about all these things, and I was asking her that you now you nearly know everything as what we all know. So I asked her, what do you do? So she was a specialist in understanding how places get names.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so
How
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
that's what I was like, wow man, that's so
Yeah.
interesting to know. So she told me that I mean, and of course then I shared with her, how does Kanha get its name, and how does Ranthambore get its name. And I said, in Indian culture, all of us have names which have certain meanings.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Kanha gets its name from the kind of soil which is found, and also because there used to be a person over there who could actually speak or communicate to animals. His name was
Okay.
Kanhan Rishi. So that's how Ranthambore gets its name, because of the grounds where there were wars fought. So it used to be Ranak Bhavar. Ranak was a land where there used to be war, and Bhavar means this huge area. So Ranthambore is actually Ranak Bhavar. So Pench gets its name because of the Pench
Wow.
River, which is there. So also for the kind of homework which you need to do is, yes, find out these interesting things, and when you're on a safari, share it with your safari mates, or when you're sitting in the campfire in the evening, just share this information, because that's what we do when we're
Yeah.
sitting on a safari. We're sharing information, and when
Yeah.
we are at the campfire, we are talking about what we've seen, what we know, things like that. So homework before safari, yes, know where you're going, know what is the local specialities over there in terms of either wildlife or either birds, mammals, or things like that, and have 10 questions which, okay, these are the things at the end of the trip I would like to know about that place. So
Yeah.
that's at least doing some little bit of basic work or things like that.
So, in your opinion, Indrajit, what is a or who is a responsible wildlife tourist?
um, a responsible wildlife tourist, this is a very very important aspect of tourism, wildlife. See, India is such a unique country that we've got nearly 7 or 8 different types of tourisms. You've got, of course, cultural tourism, where you do your
Yeah.
typical Delhi, Jaipur, Agra circuit and things like that. You've got adventure tourism, which is still upcoming, where you can go into the Himalayas and do your treks and all. You've got religious tourism, where you do your
Yeah.
Char Dham Yatras, or you go to just beautiful temples and things like that. And you've got, of course, wildlife tourism, which is still upcoming. It's not a very very big thing, because if you ask anyone in the world that where would you like to go to for wildlife, as soon as someone says, it'll be Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. A second option, they would say South America. Third option, then they might think of India or the Asian continent as such. So
Right.
India is not directly responsible as a wild, or as a wildlife destination. But to become a responsible wildlife tourist, certain things which are
Hmm.
very very important are just knowing the lay of the land and what the rules of that particular land are. I'll give you
Okay.
a simple example, or rather, I'll
Yeah.
give you a comparison. When you go
Yeah.
to Africa, you are allowed to take a vehicle. You can do self-drive, okay? You can have your own car from the
Oh.
park authorities, and you can drive around in Africa, in Masai Mara, in
Oh. Okay.
Tanzania, in there. You can also, in a lot of African parks, go off-roading, because
Yeah.
it's a lot to do with planes. So
Hmm.
that's one of the things. Second is, in Africa and things like that, there is nothing like your some parks. There is nothing like you're open only from sunrise to sunset. You can do
Hmm.
game drives at night also. You can do game drives in the afternoon also. You can stay inside the parks also. So
Hmm.
these are the things which are not allowed in India. In India, you're
Right.
only supposed to stick to certain roads which the park has authorized you to.
Yeah.
One. Second, also, you're only supposed to be in the parks from sunrise to sunset. You cannot be in the
Yeah.
parks after that, after dark hours. Third
Yeah.
is, there are very few parks. In fact, I can only think of 1 or 2 parks where
Yeah.
accommodations are allowed to be inside the parks.
Right.
So that comes to only one thing, is because we as tourists, and that includes you and me, we've not
Yeah.
been responsible. Hence, the forest department or the government has made some rules where you're not allowed to do these things. A
Yeah.
responsible wildlife tourist. I'll give you an example. We were walking in Satpura Tiger Reserve, where there are beautiful walking safaris.
Hmm.
And over there, people who come on the walking safaris, of course, they're carrying some chocolate or some wrapper or something like that.
Yeah.
And unknowingly, totally unknowingly, instead of putting it in the pocket, because of our mentality, it's just, chalo phek do types. And it's gone into the forest floor. Now, there could be a small animal, let's say like a spotted deer or a mouse deer or a barking deer, who comes and licks that wrapper and finds a different kind of taste to it. So it tries to chew it and swallow it. And once
Yeah.
it swallows it, it goes and wedges itself in the stomach or the intestines. And because it cannot poop it out, the
Yeah.
stomach starts to swell, and eventually the animal dies. This is one of the reasons why the forest department has said, you know what, we are not going to let you walk inside the parks in all places. Only certain parks will allow. That too, we will police you really, really strictly. So things like that.
Hmm.
So basic responsible wildlife tourist will be, just leave that place how you found it.
Right.
In fact, I would go one step further and say, go to that place, find out a way you can make it better for someone who's coming from behind you, and then
Yeah.
leave it. So I mean, yeah, there are so many typical things which are like, it's like walking on a beach. Every time you walk on a beach, the wave comes and cleans and goes away. So you should be
Yeah.
that wave which always cleans the place off and goes. I mean, Manjari is so sensitive when she goes to a national park. Things like which are biodegradable, let's say like a banana peel or something like that. We're like, you know what? We can eat a banana and chuck the peel out because it's going to be biodegradable, or some other animal can eat it or something like that. But also another thing is we are introducing something over there which is not from that place.
Right.
So rather than even taking these kind of, oh, is it biodegradable? Is it not? Just get everything back. So one of the most important responsibilities of a wildlife tourist is leave the place even better than what you found it. One. Second is, now I come to the other tricky part of wildlife tourism, which is photography. Photography is always a tricky thing, because as soon as, let's say, you see some wild animal,
Yeah.
typically a tiger, you will push your guide and driver to get your vehicle close to it or in front, or whatever, to try and get a better picture. But you little know that you are stressing out the animal by making it do something very unnatural.
True.
Unnatural is, the animal has come on the road by his own choice,
Yeah.
but you are making it leave the road by making by going close to a comfort zone, and it goes off the road or does something which is not normal for it.
Right.
So photographers are always pushing themselves that, I want to be very close, and they've got these big ass lenses, 300 mm, 400, 500 mm,
Yeah.
and then they want to be in the front so that they can get the tiger or whatever animal is there in the front. I mean, it could be elephants, it could be rhinos, it could be snow leopards and things like that. But photographers have to draw a line, and I say this very blankly, and I've also been a party to it. So I know eventually now what it means by stressing the animals out. As soon as the animals get uncomfortable, they will move away from whatever they're doing. And
Yeah.
that's where the forest department is saying that that's that 80% where we need to make sure that they don't get disturbed and things like that. So there are a lot of things like that. Becoming responsible tourist is using local lodges which use at least 80% of people who are employed within that particular area. So there are some rules and regulations laid out by the lodges, or for the lodges also. And one of the rules is the lodges should have at least 75 to 80% of people who are employed staying within a certain periphery of the park. So,
Yes.
encouraging using of these kind of lodges. So this is being responsible. This is where you're actually helping the money which is coming to them go back to them, rather than going off to someone who's staying in, let's say, a Delhi or a Bombay or a Bangalore lodge owner.
Right.
So
Right.
these are small things which affect the lodges, or which affect the local people in a very big way. So
Yeah.
this is what I think you should be very responsible. Another very
Yeah.
interesting thing, and I can see your mother-in-law making it. Also, I think we are so loud. Yes, it is a very, very, very factual thing what she's written. Where as soon as we see a tiger, or as soon as we see some iconic species, we start yelling and shouting and saying, "Oh, why?" Yes, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it is an Indian mentality. It's going to take a lot of time, but there has to be a start somewhere, and that start can be from you or me.
Yeah.
So if I can make sure people in my Jeep are quiet, if people in my Jeep are not littering, if in my Jeep are understanding that, okay, we've seen a tiger, now let's move on, let someone else see the tiger, that kind of an education, if it is there, then we are definitely making headways towards in the right direction. So yeah, being a responsible tourist also is in the hands of the local forest administration, making sure
Yeah.
we get the right kind of guidance over there.
Yeah. So she's also asking about the color part. Why do you? I mean, since we are talking about educating ourselves and our
Yeah, yeah.
viewers here as well, why are all the safari clothing so subdued or in natural colors, and why shouldn't we wear these bright colors in the jungle?
So I'm going to make some controversial statements here. I know there are going to be a lot of people who are listening are not going to agree to it, but I'll make this statement. The
Go for
people
it.
who wear the most bright colored clothes, the most obnoxious looking hats and caps, will always see a tiger. And the people
No.
who are wearing these camouflage clothes, the people who are wearing these amazing, just dull browns, dull greens, and those kind of clothes, they'll not see a tiger. And I this is a statistical truth. It's not even like a made up thing. And I'll explain to you one thing. This whole concept of having safari clothes came into India actually from Africa. And the concept came into
Okay.
India because when you're in Africa, you actually did walking safaris. Yeah.
Right.
Now, in walking safaris, if you, I mean, and I don't know how many people who have been, who are listening, have been to Africa. But if you look at the Maasai people, they'll always be in bright color, like a pink or orange, or some cloth when they're walking through the land.
Okay.
They're in that color because they want to show themselves to the animals, saying that what, we are here, move away from us. Now, obviously, when you're going on a safari, you want to sneak as close to the animals as possible. So the safari clothes came into the picture. Uh, if you are talking in the Indian scenario, now animals are also smart. I mean, they've evolved
Yeah.
over a period of time and they've reached whatever they've
Yeah.
reached. If I wear a brown color shirt and if my neighbor is wearing an orange color shirt,
Yeah.
it is not really going to matter because the animal is actually seeing the vehicle before you. The
Yes.
animal has already heard the vehicle. It's
Yeah.
seeing the vehicle come, and then it sees some figures which are us sitting in it.
Yeah.
On top of that, a lot of animals see things in grayscale. Not
Right.
everyone is seeing it in color. So safari clothes look really, really nice because we want to see the opposite Jeep in a nice camouflage colored clothing. This is my personal opinion. I am not saying that that's the way it is. But when I give people an idea of what to wear on safaris, I still definitely insist that you should wear dull colored clothing because it merges with the background. One.
Right.
Second is, we also expect people to go on a walking safari in the national parks or in the buffer zones. And at that time, definitely we will say wear long pants and full sleeve shirts, which are typically dull green in color or brown in color, which merge with the background, where you don't want to stand out at that time. You want to merge in. But on
Right.
safari, yes, it helps, of course, to have a colored, dull colored clothing. But I have not understood this logic, and I'm more than open to someone telling me about why we should wear dull colored or these camouflage clothes on a safari when you're sitting in a jeep, which is making so much noise. And animals know that way before. I mean, for example, a tiger
Yeah.
can hear your jeep at least about a kilometer before, if not more, before
Yeah.
you come.
Yeah.
So who are you trying to hide? So, like I said, it's visually appealing to us. So we tell everyone, wear brown colors, wear green colors, wear camouflage colors. I mean, I like I said, I will always tell people to wear camouflage colored clothing, but there is no basis to that. And this is, like I said, my opinion. So
Yeah, but then there is Amit Sankla who refuses to let people go in if you're wearing a bright blue or something.
I
He
agree.
will kick off
Yes,
someone.
yes, yes. I agree. I agree. I'm not saying no. Yeah. I agree to that. Like I
So,
said, I still will tell people to wear something dull. I still
yeah,
will tell people. So, funnily enough, again, like I said, lots of stories which happened. One of my guests, he was from Brazil. He had come. He was quite a senior person in one of the Brazilian ministries, and he was he was really crazy about wildlife. He had done a lot of Africa and things like that, and in Brazil also he was doing it. So he came to India, and I picked him up in Nagpur, and we drove down to Kanha. And at night, I
okay,
gave him a brief that tomorrow morning we are waking up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. The jeep will be ready, and it'll take us about 2-3 minutes to get out and then go eventually to the park entrance and then get into the park. So he says, yeah, sure,
yeah,
sure. So he said, what is the vehicle like? And I described him the jeep and things like that. What kind of clothes shall I wear? So I said, wear camouflage, dull colored clothes and things like that. He said, yeah, sure, okay, fine. I have no problem with that. Next day morning, I woke up. It was dark. Remember, it's a winter morning.
yeah,
And I come and I say good morning to him, and he sits in the jeep. I'm sitting in the jeep. I tell my driver, let's go ahead, and we go to the park gate, and we're waiting there, finishing the formalities. So I go to the
yeah,
park gate. I show his passport. I show my identification, and we get the ticket, and I come back to the jeep, and the whole all the people standing there are looking at my jeep. And I'm walking towards her. I'm like, okay, now something is wrong, because why is everyone attracted to the jeep and looking at us or looking at the jeep? I go over there. This guy is so sweet. he has got black war paint put on his cheeks, on his hands over here, in full camouflage dungarees, sitting. And at that time, of course, this was about close to about 7 or 8 years back. You're sitting in a white color Maruti Gypsy. So it was such a funny sight that he is totally camouflaged. I mean, if you picked him up and threw in the forest, you will not find him. But he's sitting in such amazing camouflage gear. And
That's
then, of course,
awesome.
that's the reason why everyone was looking at him. So then, of course, we went on the safari. And then in the afternoon, of course, during the safari, he realized that he's the only one who has got this war paint and, things like that. In the afternoon, he was just like a normal person like you and me, wearing just camouflage clothes. So yeah, some people do go a long way and try and camouflage themselves, and but
That's
lots of
amazing.
funny stories like these all along. Yeah.
So, Kamaini is asking, so a lot of do's and don'ts, which are absolutely new for us. Do you have a write-up or a workshop or a blog that one can access to educate ourselves?
So Kamayani, you are coming on the November trip. So you will get your do's and don'ts right up by email, definitely. But no, we can always share details like these with people who are more than interested. And I think if you write to any of the lodges wherever you're staying, or even to your travel agents who are doing your bookings, and if they're knowledgeable travel agents, they will definitely give you a list of
Yeah,
things, what you should carry, what you should do, what you should not do, what to expect, and things like that. So definitely, these are all, someone had asked a question that what are the preparations we need to do. These are all a part of your preparations, that before you go on a safari, these are the kind
yeah,
of things which I need to find out. So this is all the homework which you need to do. And there are umpteen number of places where you'll get this kind of information. And some of the most reliable information you will get is from the place where you're going on a safari to.
okay. So we're going to start the pictures, but just quickly before that, Pranay wants to know, I suppose even perfumes would be a strict no-no in the jungle.
Yeah, Pranay, perfumes is a strict no-no. One big reason is because most of our perfumes have got an odor which is quite a sweetish odor, and that attracts a lot of bees and wasps and all. And we have seen that happening. So we definitely recommend no using deodorants and things like that. We, in fact, when I used to do a lot of camps for kids and all, I used to tell the kids, if you want to see a tiger, don't have a bath all your days of safari. And we never missed a tiger. So Muskat, there you go. Maybe you had a shower, and that's why you didn't see a tiger. I don't know.
That's it. Never. I'll
Yeah.
stop
So
showering 3 days before I go
shops.
to the jungle.
Well, I don't know about that. You'll probably be the only one in the vehicle then. But yeah, so no perfumes and all, because it attracts insects which could bite or which could sting. And that's the reason why we say do not have any perfumes or deodorants while on safari.
Yeah. Asima, I have your question. I'm saving it for after we've gone through the slideshow to ask him
Asima
how
is my
he
sister.
identifies.
Yeah,
Okay.
she
So,
sang in from Germany, I think. Yeah.
oh,
Anyway.
wow. That's interesting. So, we'll just start with the slideshow and,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, and go through the pictures, and you can tell us the stories
Sure,
about that.
definitely.
Just give me a second. I'm just going to pull up her question. So she did ask, how are you able to recognize tigers by their name, and how long do you wait to get such amazing photos of the tigers?
So I'll answer the question in two parts. So when we see this first picture, this first picture is of two tigers. They're
Yeah.
young tigers. How you can recognize the tigers? And it's a very good time, Musrat, you've put up this picture. If you look at the facial markings of both the tigers in the picture, they're very different.
Yeah.
Tigers have got different facial or different patterns on their bodies also. No two
Okay.
tigers have the same kind of an identification. They're as unique as your thumbprint is unique to, and my thumbprint is unique. So if you just look at these two tigresses, and this is from Bandhavgarh, they've got very different marks on their faces and on their bodies also. So
Right.
according to this, the forest department gives them certain numbers like T1, T2, T3, T4, whatever. And then the locals on top of it, depending on where the tigress was first seen, or tiger was first seen, or where she was born, or something like a snip in the ear, or the behavior, like if it's an aggressive tiger, they give names according to that. So there have
Yeah.
been very famous tigresses, and one of the ones, Mustad, which you mentioned was the Collarwali tigress. And
Yeah.
she's from Pench, and she is called Collarwali because she used to have a radio collar around her when they were
Yeah.
studying her. Hence, to identify it, she was called Collarwali. In Kanha, there are a lot of famous tigers. In Bandhavgarh, there are in Ranthambore, one of the oldest tigresses was Machli. Because she actually started hunting in the lakes, and she used to, be so adapted. She adapted herself so well that she very successfully made that as her modus operandi for killing animals. So she was called Machli. And then you've got some animals, some tigers called Charger and things like that. So it depends on what kind of names which the local communities and the local forest department gives. Officially,
Right.
the forest department doesn't give any names anymore. They give them a proper name, which is like a T1, a T2, or whatever. And all these names are mentioned on the forest department's website with their
Yeah.
identification marks. In fact, if you go to some national parks, you'll also get books which have got certain histories of tigers. Like
Yeah.
they'll tell you what the name of the tiger is, the facial markings, and also when it was born, how many litters it has had, who was the mother, who was the father, things like that. So it's quite pretty
Yeah.
interesting. These two tigresses are from Bandhavgarh, and they're actually waiting for their mother to bring back a sambar kill which she had made. And we waited for a long time to get a photograph of these two because they were very, very shy. And the
Yeah.
only time we could see these two were when actually the mother came to them and then she brought them onto the road. Otherwise, they never came on the roads.
Yeah.
So this is one of those pictures which we got eventually.
Yeah. And this is they're very young here, right? These are very
Yeah.
young tigers.
The
Yeah.
reason why you can now identify it, and this is what a typical naturalist will do, is help you identify how they're young is. If you look at their nose, you can see it's
Right.
pink color skin. So
Yeah.
as tigers mature, a lot of times the nose leather turns darker, so it'll turn black. So
Ah.
when you see a young tiger, you'll see a pink one over here on their nose, and that's how you'll find out.
Okay. So
Uh,
my mom is asking, Machli used to feed an older tiger male. Was it Charger?
I don't think it was Charger because Charger was not from Ranthambore. Charger was from Bandhavgarh. So
Ah.
it could
Okay.
have been some other
Other.
one. Yeah,
Okay.
it could be.
Ajay is here. Hi, Ajay. He's saying, I have Machli's picture that I shot on my visit to Ranthambore. Took him
Ajay,
full
you've seen a
3 days
historic
to sight her.
tigress. Yeah, it is a historic picture. Please keep it because she is a iconic tiger of India. She's the one who revived the tiger, so-called tiger industry in terms of tourism. And that's
Right.
she's the one because most of the films which were made, the BBC, Animal Geographic, National Geographic films, were made in Ranthambore, and they told the world that come to India to see wild tigers. And Machli was the main character in those films.
Right.
Here you can see a typical deer, which is called a cheetal or a spotted deer. A lot of times when we go into parks, because there are such large number of these deer, we tend to not look at them or not to take a photograph of them. Here there's a beautiful male deer in his prime, and you can make that out because of the white patch which has on its throat. And
Okay.
this is shot in Kanha National Park. And it's a beautiful, beautiful time to go there any time of the year. This was shot, I think, in January and beginning February. So beautiful male spotted deer.
Very nice. So next picture.
This is a peacock which is there. I mean, there is nothing unique about this picture, but I think it was very nice because I was with a photographer over there, and he told me that it's not always about animals showing their most beauty, but it's about composition. And here there is an X factor in the photograph. And the X factor is the tree trunk going on one side and the peacock with his tail going on the other side. And that's
Right.
the X factor which is there. So that's why this picture I love. It is not my composition. It is as in it's done by someone else. And I took the picture because he took the picture. And I think it was a very good different perspective because most of the peacock pictures we would see with their huge tail feathers opened,
Yeah.
which is also very, very beautiful. But here I think the X factor is the peacock with the dead tree trunk, which is there.
Okay.
One of my favoriteest animals. I don't know if there's an animal which is there. This is the red panda, and it is seen in the high altitude areas of Sikkim and a little bit of the eastern part of the country. This is a national park called Singalila National Park, And some years back, they actually voted the red panda as the cutest mammal on earth. Every year there's a competition, and all the naturalists of the world, they get together and they vote for which animal is going to be declared as, the cutest mammal on earth for this particular year. And I think this is in 2011, 2012, that the red panda became the iconic animal, or the most cuddly animal of that year. So this is the red panda. Very, very beautiful, very unique
Adorable.
species. Very adorable. Yeah,
You
very
get
adorable.
you get a lot of awes on this picture, and oh my
I
god,
know.
and
Even every time I see
you
this picture, I mean, I've got this picture in my living room also, and every time I see this picture, it's such a beautiful picture. It brings back so many memories, and like what you rightly said, it's got an awe in it. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
and then the beauty is the habitat which it is in. That's a rhododendron forest, so it's actually
Okay.
sitting on a rhododendron tree, and you can see the leaves which are just behind it, which it
Yeah.
typically feeds on, and it moves around in that area. So very shy animal, but a very, very beautiful animal to see.
And your wife is also here, and she's saying peacock picture is really visually balanced. I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, she loves that. We've got that one framed also.
Wow.
This is an animal which is called an Indian gaur. Again, over here, it's a young male which is there, and you
Yeah.
can see it's got white socks-like feet.
Yeah.
So this is one of the largest cattle found in the world. It's from the bovine family, and over here you've got a small myna bird just behind the forehead. If you
Yeah.
notice very carefully, and
Yeah.
that is the cleaner. That is the cleaner service which it has. So these mynas actually go on the back or the bodies of these gaur, and they pick off the ticks and small mites or other insects which irritate this animal. So this is
Wow.
like the cleaning service. I mean, if you've gone to Africa, in the on the wildebeest or on the zebras, you see these birds called the oxpeckers, and they do the same thing as what these guys do. So the common myna does that thing, and sometimes you'll see the gaur just standing over there and tilting his head this way, because the myna bird is going into the ear to pull out some insect which it has been irritating, or if there is a tick which has been stuck near the eye, the myna will quietly come over there and pull out the tick and clean it. So things
Oh,
like that. So
that's
they've got their
amazing.
personalized service cleaning department which is there. So that's the gaur with the myna in the background. This
Oh,
was one of the most bold leopards. Leopard is my favorite cat. I think it is, and one of the reasons why it's my favorite cat is you can see it from all kinds of habitats to all kinds of altitudes. I mean, you can have them
yeah.
very close to a beach or very close to a seaside. You can have them on high altitudes, like the snow leopards. You can have them in rainforests. You can have them in deserts. You can have them in scrub forest. So their habitats are so unique that they are one of the most adaptable cats in the world. This particular
Yeah.
leopard was from Tadoba, a big male, and he was so brave that he used to walk on the roads very
That's
regularly.
very rare for a leopard. They're
That's
very
what,
elusive.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, they are highly elusive. And in
Yeah.
this particular incident, is what happened is when we were the second jeep when the leopard was going in the front. There was another jeep in front of us, and once the leopard came on the road, it started walking. And the local guides told us, "Sir, ये leopard रास्ते में बहुत चलता है." So we were like, "Okay, we'll follow it then." And it was going in the front. So the jeep in the front got a little bit too close to this leopard,
Oh,
and the
yeah.
leopard just turned around and gave this particular look, and that driver backed away. So this was the look which that leopard said, "Buddy, you're getting too close to me. Stay a little bit far. I'm going to walk on the road." So this was
That's
that
amazing.
brave leopard. Yeah, amazing. And he looked straight back at us, and because I was the second jeep, we could also see the leopard eye to eye. But like what you rightly said, leopards are highly elusive. It's
Yeah.
very difficult to get such a clean leopard shot. Usually you'll see some foliage or some leaves, or
Yeah.
behind some bamboo thicket or something. So this is that male leopard in Tadoba, which looked, turned around and straight told us, "Stay in your comfort area. You're getting too close to me," types.
Amazing.
This
Wow.
was this was one of my favorite is one of my favorite pictures of the tiger. It is from Bandhavgarh National Park, and we were on a full day safari. And this was a hot summer day, and you can make out by the grass, which is it's totally a dry time of the year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was one of the aggressive males which was there, and very shy again. And my guest said he wanted to photograph only this male and no other male, of course, because he has been there the whole day. He had seen tigers before, and he was a photographer who documented tigers. So he
Right.
said, I want to let's spend time, and I don't mind even just if we see it, if we get to photograph it, even more the better. So in the morning we went there and we were hanging around this particular road where he was last seen. And all the
Hmm.
cars came, went, and because we were on a full day safari, we had the special permit to stay in the
Right.
park the whole day, a
Yeah.
photographer's permit.
Yeah.
And it was getting very hot, and there was no sign of this animal at all. So I told him, Todd, you know what? I think we can go to and in the shade of the tree, and we'll wait over
Hmm.
there. And if we see some movement, we'll come back and stand, because we're standing next to this is an artificially created water hole. So we were standing
Oh,
over there,
okay.
and he said, "No, let's stick over here. If you think he's going to come to this water hole, we'll stay here." Musrat, you'll not believe, we stayed in the sun for nearly 2 hours
My
on a
God.
May afternoon in Bandhavgarh National Park.
Yeah.
This guy didn't turn up. At about 2:45, 2:50 maybe, somewhere out of the blue, he just stood up and came out. He was sitting all along behind a bamboo clump, and we had scanned everything. We didn't see him one bit. He just
Yeah.
stood up and came down to the water hole, and he started drinking water, and he gave us this look saying that you didn't look hard enough. He finished drinking water, turned around and went and sat in the same place again. Yeah, now we knew where he was. In
Yeah.
the afternoon, the other group of jeeps which comes for the afternoon safaris, they all came. They didn't see anything. We didn't tell them. They
Yeah.
didn't see anything. They came, they drove past, and they said, "Ha, kuch nahi dikha rahega." So we said nothing. We didn't see anything. Little knowing that there was a tiger sleeping over there. The point is, these guys camouflage so amazingly to even
Yes.
a trained eye. I had a guide, a very, very experienced guide. I had a very, very good driver. There was my guest, and there was me, four of us, which is four pairs of eyes, could not find where he is, even after he went and sat down, which was just
Right.
magical. And this look which he gave when he said, "You know what, you should have looked harder," is just an amazing, amazing one. So I think this was we really worked hard for this particular picture.
Incredible. So I think that's all the photos that we have.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't want to show too many pictures also, because then one of the main intentions to show you pictures is to make you get out and go into a national park or a tiger reserve or a wildlife sanctuary. Just getting out over there and knowing what's happening, and understanding their ground realities rather than sitting at home and only because people who are watching this automatically are interested in wildlife, are interested
yes.
in animals. So
Yes.
the next step now from seeing only National Geographic on television is actually going out and seeing things for yourself. And like I have
Right.
always been saying, it's not tiger centric tourism which we need to focus on. There are a lot
Yeah.
of other things which are there, and you've experienced it like no one else, where you've still not seen a tiger, but still makes you go on safaris again. So
Yeah.
definitely, it does make a big difference.
No, thank you, Indrajit. Really very, fun session, informative. We learned a lot about, wildlife tourism in India. Like you said, it's not all there, but the parks are available to us. And,
Yeah,
it should be on everyone's list. And, but don't go looking for a tiger, because that's not what
yeah,
the whole experience is about.
true,
It's
true.
far, it's the thrill of going on a safari, sitting in the jeep for hours,
Yeah,
hearing the alarm calls and seeing other
true.
birds, other animals in the
Yeah,
meanwhile.
yeah.
So,
And
embrace the
walking
whole
also.
experience. Yes,
And
the
walking
nature walks.
also. Yes,
Yeah,
nature
nature walks.
walks.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So embrace the whole experience. Do your research. Support local lodges and parks. And of course, Indrajit's Instagram handle is up on the screen if you want to follow him for more incredible pictures like the ones you just saw. Or if you have questions for him, you can reach him
Yeah,
through his Instagram. And maybe you can join in on his November safari group that he's
that's one of
taking.
the ones I'm saying. I'm not. That's not the only one which we can do. But yes, definitely, I would be more than glad to not only, tell people, take people on safari, but also give information, because
Yeah,
one part of it is, I mean, everything is available. A lot of it is available online, but still there are some places which are not online, which are so-called kept secrets for the right kind of people which is there. So I'll definitely be more than glad to help you go to such kind of places. And then there are plenty of them. Like I said, you can go to so many small parks, you can go to so many small walks around your own cities itself. So yes, definitely.
Yes. So thank you guys for joining us. You're getting a lot of comments about lovely stories and interesting session and amazing clicks and very interesting story of tigers. We're really, really happy to have you, Indrajit. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much.